Lemma from Sacred Soul Empowerment.
And I'm Kathi Munson from Voices of Enlightenment. And this is our new podcast called Empowered Voices, which we're extremely excited to be here with you today and starting this new venture with all of you. We are going to be sharing the energies of 2020. That's what we're going to be talking about in our podcast today. And Colleen is going to start by giving us the astrological overview of 2020. So I'm going to pass it on to Colleen.
Thank you, Kathi. It's an honor to be here with you doing this new podcast. I'm really excited to share with you, as well as all of those empowered voices out there, some of the information that we're going to be doing. So in this particular episode, the energies of 2020, I think it's important maybe to start first by looking at our perspective of the energies of 2019 and what that felt like to us, and then how 2020 might be a little different. So if I were to look at from more of a numerological as well as an astrological perspective, 2019 was to me more of an energy or a year about almost like surrendering and going with the flow a little bit. You know, there was a lot that 2019 had in regards to our belief systems, I feel, how we perceive things, what we believe about things, what we believe about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves. I think that we went through a huge time period over those months of 2019 where maybe things didn't seem to make a lot of sense, or we felt like, you know, we weren't necessarily in total control of situations. Like there was a little bit of this aspect of just surrender that was involved in 2019. And from a numerological perspective, which I often, you know, look at the years from that slant as well, is that the year 2019 numerologically adds up to a 12. You know, if you add 2, 0, 1, and 9, it's a 12. And the 12th major arcana in the tarot is the Hanged Man. And I bring this up because I felt like 2019 was just like we were hanging upside down in suspended animation. Like we could, you know, just like the hanged man hanging from, you know, the branch of a tree by one leg, and just, you know, one of the aspects of just feeling like we had to surrender, first of all, and that, you know, as we're hanging upside down from the tree, we're not able to really move too far too fast. But the other part of the hangman is that because he's flipped upside down, we have to look at things, you know, from a different perspective. You know, why are these things happening as they're happening? Certain circumstances and events that took place, and how things unfolded. Just to me, really felt like that hanged man energy, so to speak. If you can, you know, share your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's interesting that you use the hanged man because a lot of what I was getting since the beginning of 2019 was the fact of to go within, go within, go within, go within. So if you use that perception that you were just giving as the hanged man hanging upside down, you got a lot of alone time there, sitting there with that tree, you know, trying to figure out, okay, I'm hanging by a tree. How can I get myself grounded by hanging at the tree? And how can I reverse that view or reverse the perception, like you said? And that's a lot of what I was getting from 2019 is to go within, to find your light, you know, to have everything else outside and around us, and to sort of like push just for the moment, family, loved ones, friends, work, push it outside yourself, go within, and just sit with yourself and try to find that light, try to find the light within and reconnect with the true essence and divinity of who you are and what you're meant to do here. So there was a lot of that sort of soul searching, you know, releasing person, places, and things, or trying to make sense of that. But it's funny that you said change your perception, because a lot of what I was giving throughout 2019 was a lot about finding your light, because if I said it once, I said it a bazillion times to clients. And then the second thing was to change your perception. If you constantly look at something at face value and you always react, like if you have that one person who wants to push that button in your family and you always react the same way and react the same way and react the same way, what 2019, the energy of 2019 was asking us to do is to change our perception of that. So, okay, they pushed my button, let me step back for a minute, breathe, and say, how can I look at this differently? How can I either not react or just react to this differently? So a lot of that self-searching, that self-getting to know yourself again in some ways.
Absolutely. And I feel like, as you were talking and I was envisioning the hanged man upside down, to me, it felt like people's lives, were turned upside down a little bit. Everybody in different areas of their life, whether it be career, home and family, or just, again, your own perception or perspective of yourself, relationships. As an intuitive reader, connected with a lot of people that had a lot of relationship things going on. And again, it's almost like that hangman being hung upside down, like our lives were kind of turned upside down, so to speak, in different ways.
Well, even look at what's happened in our economy in the year. We're not going to go delve deeply into that. But I mean, just look at all of what's happening in the universe around us for 2019.
Right.
Government, people, places, and things out there in the universe. I mean, it's clearly saw that sort of like everything being turned upside down. Like you never knew what was going to happen next in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. Should we go into 2020 now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as we move into 2020, again, we're really excited because this is our first episode here that we're launching in January. So we have a new energy dynamic. Every year there's a new energy, at least from a numerological and astrological perspective, as well as just a universal perspective. And let's start with the numerology. To start with the numerological perspective, we have 2020, 2020 adds up to a number 4 if we were to look at it from that reduced numerological perspective. The number 4 is very much a grounded, practical, earthy, like third dimensional earth plane sort of number. So right away, I feel like we're going to be dealing with matters of security, because the number 4 is about security, stability, solid foundation. We're going to be dealing with all of those dynamics in 2020. Our, home and family, our sense of security within the home and family, money and finances, our sense of security with money and finances, as well as within relationships, as well as within ourselves. The number 4 is also about restructuring. So I think that, we're going to be restructuring our lives based on what occurred in 2019, perhaps, and being hung upside down. We're going to be restructuring ourselves, restructuring our lives, based on, again, some of the planetary influences, which I'll get to in a moment. But the 4th major arcana, because again, I always like to look at the tarot as well, because this tells us about the soul's journey in the evolution and growth of the soul. And the Emperor is about authority, and it is, about that sense of either outer authority or inner authority, depending on where we want to go with that. And I feel like it's about us, in a sense, it's almost about taking our power back. To me, I feel like the emperor is a king, so he's one that rules the land and he's in power. But this is about us kind of finding our own sense of inner authority and taking our power back. And that kind of, to me, goes with some of the astrology that we're starting out this year with. We are starting out this year, actually it started on Christmas in 2019, December 25th, 2019, we had a new moon solar eclipse, and new moons are all about new beginnings, and eclipses intensify the energies and also accelerate the unfolding of events in our lives. And then in January here, we have a full moon lunar eclipse. Full moons are about completion. And again, eclipses are going to intensify the energy surrounding that eclipse and accelerate the unfolding of events. But we also have, astrologically, Saturn connecting with that planet of power, death and rebirth, transformation, transmutation, and eventually transcending, if we can use that higher aspect of Pluto, which rules Scorpio, as the phoenix, the phoenix rising from the ashes. So in order for the phoenix to rise from the ashes, we kind of have to burn out or transmute some of those heavier, dense energies. And, that again goes back to that number 4 for 2020. It's about kind of the third dimensional, heavier energies of what we're dealing with circumstances and situations around us. Now, the Saturn part of that conjunction with Pluto, Saturn rules past life karmic lessons, or past life karmic belief systems, past life karmic relationships or relationship patterns. Saturn is the great teacher. And so here we have Saturn, the great teacher, and bringing in this karmic energy. Saturn also is a planet that is very much the ruler of the patriarchal system, the third dimension, third dimensional energies. Even in a way, the physical body, Saturn again ruling the third dimension, it's all of that physical energy, which our physical vessel and physical body is attached to as well. So we have those two very powerful planets coming together at the full moon lunar eclipse here in this first month of 2020. So again, I feel like this, this needing to transmute and rise above, which I feel like we're going to be feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually throughout this year. Because not only are we experiencing January as the time of the Saturn-Pluto coming together, but throughout the year, we're going to have Jupiter connecting with the degree of Saturn-Pluto. And all of these planets are in Capricorn, which, by the way, rules career path, life path, destiny path, authority figures, the patriarchal system, who we are out in the world, big business, the powers that be, so to speak. And Jupiter is this planet of expansion. So wherever Jupiter is, whatever it touches, it expands the energies. And if Jupiter is connecting to that Pluto, transformation, death and rebirth, Saturn, karmic lessons, and trying to teach us what it is that from a soul perspective we need to know, Jupiter is going to expand that throughout the year. It's going to be like an ebb and flow of that expansion of those energies. So, that's a little bit from the astrological, numerological perspective. I'm sure Kathi has more to add.
Well, listening to you talk, I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. Oh, this is going to be interesting. It's but the interesting thing is 2020, I feel so excited about 2020 because if you've been doing your work throughout 2019, the end of 2019 was like already pushing. You could feel the energy. We had talked about Ascension, Ascension symptoms, you and I, different Ascension symptoms. I had a lot of clients that are having migraines, that are having physical symptoms of what's going on with them, from releasing. And this is why, if you can step back and it's so important, and I cannot stress this enough, for us to step back and just be with us, just take in and try to figure out what's going on with us, because it's going to help your perception as far as everything else around you for 2020. And so what I keep getting for 2020 for myself is the fact that, transformation, absolutely. And if you're embracing and trying to say, okay, I know I'm going through this for a reason. I can't say it's not frustrating. We're human. So we're going to have those frustration moments where we're like, oh, I thought I worked on this years ago, but again, they're going to continue to put it in our face and connect to get it ever more important to know it's time to let it go. It's time to look at it. It's time to now face it and say, okay, let me look at this. Let me take it one step at a time. It's going to be ever more important that you also take care of yourself through this process. So if you're the type that goes and has energy work, if you're the type that maybe has somebody psychically, help you through this process, you don't have to do this alone. Although a lot of the work is going to be all on you because, you know yourself, Colleen, we have to release it. Mm-hmm. Nobody can help us release it. We have to be the ones to look at it, face it, work on it, and then release it. So it truly is starting to empower ourselves, hence why the empowering point was so important, to empower our own voice and say, you know what, this is me, this is who I am. I'm going to embrace this, and I'm going to show the world who I truly am.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's going on as far as job-wise, person connection-wise, meaning, you know, partner, boss, friends, you know, you're going to find that that's going to ebb and flow to a more positive place for you. The more that you start to take it on and say, okay, I'm just going to be who I am. This is who I am. And let me try to keep walking in the path, especially with the 2 eclipses that, you know, that you've already mentioned are going to be intense. I'm a moon girl, so I'm embracing those as the day is long for me. You know, you say anything about the full moon and I'm like, yee! I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl, because I don't care if it's an eclipse or a lunar eclipse. I'm a happy girl. I love the full moons. But again, they can bring some pretty intense energy. So let me just pass it to you for a moment.
Couple things that you said that brought something else up too, about the difference to me between 2019 and 2020. And one is that I feel like 2019 was more of a mental year, meaning to me, there was more going on as far as, again, our belief systems, how we perceive things, you know, that's why I say it was more of a mental year. And with 2020, I feel like it's going to be more of a physical year. And not just dealing with the physical body, although again, I think that's part of it, but again, physical in the sense of our career path, life path, destiny path, our money, finances, again, physical body, and things of that nature. And I also look at it from a perspective of feminine versus masculine, because to me, 2019 felt more like I had to just be receptive and just kind of go with the flow and be allowing and be intuitive and, you know, utilize those feminine qualities. And I feel that 2020 or 2020 is going to be more masculine, perhaps, about taking action, making things happen physically, so to speak, with different, you know, projects that you're doing, or you know, again, actions that you're taking, decisions that you're making. That was one thing. What do you feel about that?
What I was thinking, what came to me was, you already mentioned, you know, the Emperor card. The Emperor is all about that, about being that masculine looking energy. Doesn't mean that you have to be a man, so to speak, but standing in that groundedness to say, this is who I am. You know, this is where I want to go. And also still empowering yourself. You guys are going to hear me say that word a lot because I use it a lot in my vocabulary, but empowering yourself to say, you know what, I don't think this is working for me. Meaning job, if you're looking at job, if you're looking at a partnership, if you're looking at whatever, and standing in the truth behind that, standing in the power behind that, to embody yourself and say, I can make this move and I can do this. And I will tell you, if you're already feeling that, movement is a big key. You know, move sooner than later. Like, don't stay so grounded in that Emperor phase that we're like, well, I'm just going to wait. I'll just wait. I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to stay, because that's not going to work.
Right. You have to take an action.
Absolutely.
You have to make something happen. However, it also dawns on me that, you know, as a collective for many, many years, we've been trying to rise into more of the divine feminine, because it's been out of balance, right? It's been out of balance with the patriarchal system, the masculine, and, you know, there's a divine masculine, but I'm talking about, you know, the not divine masculine, you know, the masculine energy and the patriarchal system, and how the divine feminine has been kind of squashed, if you will. And I feel like, you know, we're rising into that divine feminine, but because this is 2020 and that year of action, which is more masculine, there's still going to be this balance of the intuitive and the feminine in there. Because, and again, just to give some of you more logical people, you know, something to kind of dwell on, in numerology, the number 2, which we have 2020, we have 2 2s there. The number 2 is very much a divine feminine number. And it's very much about balance and intuition. And, again, being receptive and allowing. So there's going to be this fine ebb and flow, I feel, with our feminine and intuitive and receiving and allowing with the right action, making decisions, and moving forward, like in a physical sense, and being able to. Whereas I feel 2019, a lot of us had good intentions of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to move forward, but we might have felt a little bit more stifled, or things weren't just, happening. I feel like this is the year where things are going to start happening for people on more of that physical reality level,
Exactly.
but we still need to retain that feminine balance.
Exactly. It's like what you were saying, it's that process of, okay, I think I need to move forward in this state, but it wasn't really an action statement. Like, yes, you needed to have it in your presence and in your awareness and say, okay, I want to move towards this goal. And we know as the feminine energy is coming forward now, like women are finally starting, and I'm just going to put it out there, women are starting to be seen more and more and more in every phase. And I think 2019 was probably the first year we physically saw women finally coming forward and starting to sort of like take charge. I almost said take over, but not quite yet, but working on that. But anyway, and so 2020, I think we're going to start to see even more women coming forward, and the strong masculine sense of a woman coming forward, that empowerment of a woman, that strength of a woman. I think it's going to be a beautiful thing to see this year, and to stand in that power. So just because we say masculine, like I was saying, it doesn't always mean a man. But then again, there could be some men too. So I'll just put that out there. But again, it's sort of like embracing that and finding that strong feminine within ourselves that, that we've kind of sort of like pushed in the back of ourselves,
Right.
And starting to say, it's okay for me to move. It's okay for me to shift. It's okay. Well, I don't really care for this job. So it's okay for me to look for something else.
Right.
And if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times, and I'm just going to say this. I learn a lot when I do what I do, because I pay attention to what comes through all of the readings that I do for people. And I find lines of connection. It's sort of a thing that is ever clearer and clearer for me. And so one of the things that I have found lately is the fact of, I've heard it a lot, people saying, well, I only have 2 more years till I can retire. I only have 3 more years till I retire. I have 5 more years till I retire. But I will tell you, it's becoming so clear that if it is your time to retire, you need to retire. If it is your time to move on and move on to another job, it is your time to move on to another job. Those limitations that you're restricting upon yourself, and I'm finding that it's affecting a lot of people's health.
Absolutely.
If they're choosing to stay, like I've got 5 more years, I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if you're going to be here in 5 years.
Absolutely.
If you wait till that, and the way our economy is going, and I'm, again, not wanting to get too much into this, but the way that our economy is going, your golden nugget that you're waiting for in 5 years, is it still going to be there?
Right. Yeah. This is about empowering ourselves. This is not about, living by the rules anymore. I mean, there's certain things that we follow or whatnot, and to guide us. But
Absolutely.
just like Kathi said, I mean, we are here to empower ourselves and live our truth, live in our spiritual truth,
and joy.
And enjoy, yes, and have happiness and even love and good health and well-being and abundance and prosperity, which doesn't always, only mean about financial. But let me say this too, is that if you're following your truth and you're, like in this case, Kathy's talking about career and job and, oh, I have 5 more years to retire. If that's not your passion, and if it's not your truth, and you follow that passion and truth, and you move into what you are passionate about, the abundance and prosperity through finances, money, blessings should surely follow. I mean, definitely.
It's all about, it's funny, I went like this when I said joy, because it's about, living your heart's passion and your heart's desire. And it doesn't mean you have to know specifically what that is at this point in time, but make a plan. Make a plan so that you can start to say, okay, I'm gonna allow myself 6 months to try to see if I can figure out what I want to do. And I will tell you, if you think of something in your mind, or something comes to you in your conscious mind that it makes you happy and you get a big smile on your face, investigate that.
Yes.
see how you can bring that into your life.
Right.
I mean, I've seen some amazing people do amazing things, that have just said, I don't even know how this happened. And that's usually what ends up happening. I can speak for that, just in the career that I never thought I'd be in at this point in time, so it brings such joy to do what you can do. You'll never work a day in your life. Is there not a saying like that?
Absolutely.
That if you're happy with what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So, and it's also the Ascension
Again, it goes back to that word.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, please.
No, we were going to talk, we were kind of flowing into the Ascension symptoms. It has a lot to do with that. It's, we think that, and it's kind of funny, it didn't click with me until just now, but this is some of the things. It's not just Ascension symptoms that we're going through, but it's symptoms of if we try to hang on to something. Like, I'm always an analogy person for me. Like that. It's funny. I just found this knife that was my dad's, and it has like duct tape around the handle. And I started laughing. My dad was such a duct tape. If we didn't have duct tape and electrical tape in our house, you might as well just, we couldn't live. But it cracked me up. But I couldn't throw it away. And I'm thinking, I know I will eventually, because I found it and it made me chuckle. So I just kind of stuck it back in the drawer. But I will throw it away, because it's those things. It's like, if we hang on to it and hang on to it and hang on to it, yeah, there's a process sometimes of releasing things. We just don't say, okay, I'm going to let this go. And I certainly can do that. But again, it's, looking at that and kind of going through the process of, okay, how can I release this? And what, let's work on this so I can release this.
Right.
And a lot of the symptoms are connected to that as well, because they're pushing our energy and pushing our energy and pushing our energy to sort of get us to that higher level, that higher vibrational level that we're all going to. And so a lot of the symptoms that we're having, I can't say all of them, but a lot of them that we're having, they're coming from that, from being pushed to find better, to get ourselves to that better place, to release the things that we've carried through many lifetimes, not just this one.
Right.
And then of course the concepts that we've been taught since we've been here, that retirement piece. I mean, how many of us have seen our parents be like, well, I've got 2 more years till I can retire. I've got 3 more years till I can retire. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember that conversation going through the house, growing up. So again, it's starting to release those old concepts and the old things that we've been sort of taught since we were raised. And then again, carrying in many lifetimes.
Right. And going back to one of those key words for Pluto is about transcending at its highest,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, we're here to transmute, which Pluto rules transmutation as well, but we're here to transcend and rise above and, move kind of beyond that lower dense energy, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, one of the key words of 2020 with that 4 vibration is to restructure. So I liked how you said to, like make a plan. So to me, like making a plan, making a decision, taking an action, restructuring your life is something that you want to do in this year 2020. Do you want to talk about, some of the Ascension symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, some of the ones that, definitely are headaches, because I mentioned that already. A lot of like physical, I've noticed a lot of them are more physical Ascension symptoms this time around. Stomach issues and, things not agreeing with you, like, shifts in foods. Even if you're consciously organic or vegetarian, I've even heard, I have a friend who's vegetarian and very focused. God bless her. Very focused with that. Still trying to work on that. I'm just going to say that up front. But even she's been finding things that normally are fine with her, not really reacting the same.
Absolutely.
And for myself, weight for me, I mean, I carry a lot of energy for a lot of people. I hold sacred space. That's one of the things that I know is I hold sacred space for people. And I mean, I haven't done anything different with my food. I'm not eating worse or better. I'm just kind of, it's not. And I find that I've gained weight, but now all of a sudden I've started to lose it again, which I think is interesting, which I think is just going into 2020. I think finally I can release that energy for whoever I was holding it for. But again, it's sort of like, paying attention to them, but realizing that, it's not always things that are going on with us. like what's going on. We talked about emotions. You know, we've been having these heightened emotions up and down and up and down to where, I mean, you know, going through crying, you know, a few days of like, I could just cry at anything anybody told me. And then a few days of like, I don't know why this frustration and anger is just like plummeting out of my mouth without even going through my brain waves.
Right.
So, and I'm sure you can certainly share some.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just like you said, some of that, you know, and I'm a Libra, so I'm like all about peace and balance. You know, I try not to get, you know, too out of balance within myself, as well as put myself in situations or circumstances to where I'm going to get too out of balance. But that anger piece is very surprising to me. It's not something that I'm normally used to. I mean, yes, I get frustrated and things like that, like all normal people, but the amount or the intensity of some of the anger that's been coming up is very, I guess I'll just use the word interesting again, you know, to me,
Mhm.
within myself. And I find too, you know, one of the things, like you say, you hold space for people. I tend to transmute when I'm doing, you know, healing sessions or readings for people. I transmute energies. So I'm transmuting my
Mhm.
stuff, but I'm also transmuting other people's stuff. And my physical body, now, you know, I'm not saying this is from other people, although I'm sure that it adds to it, but I myself, my body's transmuting something because I'm having all these physical symptoms and rashes and nauseousness and migraine headaches and, you know, things that will even physically appear. Like just recently, uh, like feeling like I'm itchy in my midsection, both on my back, like I guess the solar plexus up to the heart chakra
Mhm.
area, back, as well as the front. And I'm itchy, and so I'm like, oh, I'm looking at my body, and I'm like, oh, there's all these little like red dots appearing there. What is that? What's, you know, there's some sort of a physical rash thing, a hive thing, or something that's going on. So that, you know, is definitely one of them. A lot of this, you know, these ascension symptoms. Um, and I don't even know if we should just, should we just define ascension symptoms first of all?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's some out there that don't know what they are or why.
You go ahead, Kathi.
Well, you know, as we are starting, our vibration starts to raise, it shifts and changes our bodies and our molecular system. And this is just my own interpretation, just so you all know. But it starts to change the way that our body has been either connected to certain items, people, places, and things, emotions, um, connections, but it's a physical, to me, it's a more of a physical body presence when you do ascension changes. It's not just about what's happening outside of ourselves.
Mhm.
So that's why we're talking about physical ailments, quote unquote, um, or with Colleen and I both knowing Reiki, you know, it tends to be, you know, emotional, mental, and physical information processing that can set your body at dis-ease. The
Mhm.
energy within ourselves becomes like sort of this disease to where your body can physically create symptoms. And like she was talking about the rash, can physically show you things on your body. And we're not saying that everything that you're going through is that, because, you know, there is stuff out there, you know, you can physically be ill. Um, so we never tell anybody to not pay attention to what's going on with their body, for sure. But, you know, Colleen is an empath. I'm an empath, which means we feel everybody's energy. And we both do pretty much the same thing, to where we take people's energy in and then we process it out. So we're always kind of second guessing, trying to pay attention, like, okay, is this mine? Is this not mine? You know, just trying to be very aware so that we can help our bodies to process and move to that higher vibrational level that we're going to.
Yeah.
And of course, releasing everything we've carried with us. Of course, that's kind of going into that piece of it also. So do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, going back to the just definition or defining of ascension itself, and we're moving into a higher vibrational state, and I think Kathi
Mhm.
mentioned that. We're moving from what I see as a third dimensional state of beingness into, if you want to call it, fifth dimensional and or higher state of beingness. So because our physical body is the most dense, in that third dimensional system that we live in, as the planet, as the collective, and as all of us as individuals are going through our evolution and growth and going through this ascension process, it triggers, these reactions of, whether it's, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, these ascension symptoms that are taking place, because it's like peeling away the layers of an onion, it's like, or maybe we could look at the diamond within the coal as a better analogy. It's like within this hard black rock exterior lies the diamond within us, the vibrancy and the essence, the light of our soul, and the density around that diamond. How you might first mine a diamond and it's within like some sort of rock or other structure. It's kind of hiding that vibrancy, that higher vibration of that diamond. So we're kind of peeling away these layers little by little with these ascension symptoms. And it's not that we're consciously looking for them to happen. It's again because the whole planet, Earth Mother Gaia, is raising in her vibration. And so, some of these symptoms that we've talked about already, and there's many more, they're also opening up our chakra systems, right? They're opening up our crown chakra for higher awareness, higher learning, our third eye to open up our psychic abilities, our clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. Opening up our heart chakra to divine and unconditional love, to not just look at love as conditional, but to look at it again as some divine, not just for other people, but for ourselves as well, especially for ourselves. Do you have anything to add to that, Kathi? Pass it back.
Well, it's funny. I noticed you skipped over the voice part, which is always the part that I'm always working on, is coming into the true essence of having a voice, how to express the voice, and, and have your voice heard for sure. Hence why the name of my business is Voices of Enlightenment. It was extremely important that voices was included in that. As I was raised, believe it or not, I don't even know if y'all will believe this, but I was raised in a home where nobody ever heard me. So it's been always important for me to express my voice in the most purest form and honest form that I can.
Absolutely.
So there's that as well. But also just, and as we evolve, so does everything around us. And looking at the energies of what we're, and that's why listening to Colleen and the astrology piece, because it is definitely not my forte until I met this beautiful woman, but who has enlightened me so much. But again, it's listening to that. It becomes very important, because some of what you're feeling could be through the energy of what's going on in the astrological forecast also. So it's like always great to have all of this information, and that's a lot of why what we're doing is so that, you can be like, oh, I've been having headaches. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Or, oh, geez, my stomach's been really upset and I couldn't understand what was going on. I keep going to the doctor and they can't find anything. Absolutely. Hopefully this will help you to have a little bit of broader clarity. And we're not saying to not go if you really are ill and it's not going away. It's usually if you become aware, like, I know I watch Colleen's forecasts all the time, because I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, now I know why I've been feeling the way I've been feeling. So yes, so just once you get that clarity, sometimes it ends.
Right.
It'll shift and change.
And like Kathi said, you definitely want to follow up and go to whether you go to the traditional medicine route or the alternative medicine route, you want to follow up. But there are a lot of times when people are, going to their healthcare professional, whoever that might be, and they're not getting any response or results. I mean, they're not, they can't really pinpoint what's going on. They're saying everything's fine. And, I'm looking here at some of the ascension symptoms that I printed off. And one of those is about memory, memory, losses of memory, or extreme fatigue, or even an increase in your dream activity. That's a way that we're processing as well. But I know
I've been hearing that a lot.
Absolutely.
I've been hearing that a lot about people having odd dreams and crazy dreams.
Absolutely. But even going back to the memory thing, I have some people that they're starting to be concerned, like, oh, I'm only 45 years old and I'm starting to have these memory loss, like I can't remember where I put my keys or whatever it might be. And one of the and all of a sudden it triggers another ascension symptom that I read that I've been experiencing is sort of like feeling lightheaded. I've never really had episodes of feeling like dizzy or lightheaded, but I feel like that maybe too can kind of go along with the whole memory ascension thing, the piece, because our chakras, our crown chakra, our those upper chakras are kind of opening. And if we're raising in vibration as a whole, and we're moving from third to fifth or whatever dimensional energies, we are becoming lighter, and as we're becoming lighter, time and space don't mean as much, in those other dimensions. Time and space is just an illusion. And, if we talk to, as Kathi and I can attest, we connect with our angels and guides, and the client wants to know something about the timing of an event or relationship or career or something. We do our best,
Good luck with that right now.
Which is why I love astrology and numerology, because it's more, it's more of that hardcore, like pinpointing the planetary energies and the transits that can give you a sense of timing. But from a spiritual perspective, and our angels and guides, they don't understand third dimensional time, or they might understand third dimensional time, but it's not the same. So as we're ascending too, in our memories, and what day of the week is it, and what time is my appointment that I made, it's because we're moving into those realms, those higher realms, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that could be a whole nother podcast all in itself, just the time piece, for sure.
I think so. I think a big one as far as the ascension symptoms, as I'm looking through here, that I think is important to mention, cold and flu-like symptoms.
Oh.
I mean, come on, I've been having some like nasal drip sinus thing, along with sinus headache stuff and pressure in my face. And, I'm not ill. I hardly go anywhere, but, it's just, and then the nauseousness, I get nauseous quite a lot. Those are some of those ascension symptoms as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I've been finding the same thing about the cold and flu thing. It just went through my house to where everybody in the house had it. And of course, you can do your best to do, I'm a big essential oil girl, so I tend to use a lot of essential oils for cold and flu. And I will tell you, it's getting to the point to where, yes, you can do that just so many days. And then if it's not getting any better, you have to kind of then sort of succumb to the traditional medicine practice, or naturopath, or, who, again, like Colleen said, whoever you choose to see. So I have found that, there is a point where you give yourself sort of that time period to see if you're able to make it any better. And then, there really is cold and flu out there because it's that time of year. So you have to kind of come to the realization, like, oh, I guess I really do have this now. But it's funny because I even find, as far as like the dizziness piece that you were talking about, I also find that it's connected to certain places.
Oh.
To where, like, okay, I was just feeling fine a second ago and I'm really dizzy in this place.
Okay.
And I'm like, so it's not, in some ways I look at it as though it's not just us, it's also the earth that's shifting, like you had said, the earth that's shifting and changing as well, to where I could be perfectly fine and be like, why am I so dizzy in here? And of course, because I'm a medium, the first place is like, okay, who's here?
Right.
What's going on? But it's not always that.
Right. I mean, and I think you're, talking about, which can be, again, another podcast in and of itself, but like different vortexes of energy in different places on the planet. Right?
Yes. All of that is shifting, which I find fascinating. And exciting in some ways, it's just, yeah. But, the interesting thing is everybody always thinks of like Arizona, because we know that it's such a great spiritual connection there, if anybody's ever been there. But it's not just there, it's not, it can be in your backyard. You can have this really cool portal of energy in your backyard, or you need to shift the grid of the land in your yard. Trust me, it's gonna be a whole other podcast. But again, it's kind of amazing where, I mean, I have forest in my land and love the yard and have shifted the yard so much since I've been there because it needed to be shifted. And it's just amazing to sort of walk and feel how things have shifted and changed. And as we continue to grow, nothing ever stays the same.
Right.
Energy shifts all the time. Same thing within us.
Right.
So as we're watching the earth shift and change, of course, you're seeing these sort of, in some ways, some things being very devastational, like volcanoes erupting at the spur of the moment, and the fires that are not able to be put out. I mean, you got to remember, Mother Earth has to shift and change too, and sometimes it takes those for her to be able to get to sort of like the phoenix, to get to that beautiful rising from the ashes state.
And again, I feel like it's important to mention, but it sounds like a whole nother podcast that can be done on people that are empaths and maybe don't even know that they're empaths. And when there's huge changes in the collective, when there's or an event, weather related at a catastrophic level on the planet, a lot of times if you're feeling lost or confused or depressed or distraught and you don't have any knowledge as to why that might be, because there's no reason for it, you might start to think, wow, maybe there's something going on the planet. And then you read about, some tidal wave or, some volcanic explosion or whatever it might be. So again, that's definitely going to, be a future podcast. But I feel like the Ascension symptoms, we've talked about dizziness and digestive change. I feel like people know that it can be heavier than that too. Just like I mentioned, feelings of depression and feeling distraught and feeling confused to the point that you don't even know who you are anymore or what you're doing in life, what direction you're supposed to be going, or, what your purpose even is to be,
right.
real. And, just know again that that is a part of the Ascension symptom process, and it's a part of redirecting you. When we go through those cycles to where we feel lost and confused and nothing's making any sense, or we feel like we don't have control over what's unfolding in our lives. People are, relationships are changing or falling away, or the job career path doesn't seem to be, going the way we want it to, or we can't figure out who we want to be out in the world or what we want to do. And we're feeling just a lack of motivation overall. Those are huge changing times in our lives, to not settle too much into that to the point that you're giving up hope, basically, on yourself or on your direction. Again, Kathi and I and many, many people on the planet, we're here to empower you and to give you a voice as well. So to know that you're just in a process, your life, your soul evolution and growth is in a process of being redirected at some level. I know Kathi and I have definitely been through those time periods in our life, and maybe even more recently than we care to mention, but it's definitely something where we want to be here to support you, and guide you in whatever way that we can through these times. Right, Kathi?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important that you continue to connect with your tribe of people, and certainly can reach out to Colleen and myself, either through the YouTube channel, or you can email us if you have some questions. You can certainly email us to empoweredvoices11@gmail.com, because we would be, happy to help. We never want to see anybody out there struggling, for sure. At least I know I don't.
Yeah, and if you have questions, regarding this podcast or anything that it may have stirred up within you, we are considering, Kathi and I, since this is our very first podcast, that at the beginning of each new podcast, perhaps we'll take a few of those questions that were emailed to us, and try to answer those. And I'm sure a lot of those questions may be similar in nature. So, even if we don't specifically read yours, there's probably going to be one in there that we do read that really is what you're, going through or thinking about. So again, please email us with your thoughts, your questions, your comments, at empowered empoweredvoices11@gmail.com. And anything else that you want to say, Kathi, as we...
No, I mean, it's been such a blessing to be here for sure, and really excited to see, where our podcasts are going to go in the future. And if you have suggestions, like Colleen had just said, something that you'd like to know about, something that you'd like us to touch on and talk about, I mean, definitely email us and let us know, because we want to be able to incorporate what you're looking for clearly into this. Not just our own thoughts and processes that we go through for ourselves. So we would love that, to hear your voice and have you connect with us. And also, like she said, also, if there's anything that you found that maybe you have ideas that it could have been a little different, do share that with us. We'd be very curious to know how you're all connecting with us and how it's working for you, and even just sharing your own experiences about the podcast. We would love to hear that. I'm hoping that everybody will be very interactive with us. And eventually we're hoping to possibly do some live things as well, so that you can ask questions right in the moment. So we're hopefully going to get to that point. But yeah, so until our next podcast, I'm just going to say, because I know Colleen will finish this off, but I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. It truly has been a blessing and an honor to be here with all of you today, and to have you hear my voice. So with that, I'm just going to pass it on to Colleen.
And please be sure to visit us at our Facebook page, Empowered Voices. And if you are watching this podcast on Facebook, because we'll be sure posting it on our own individual pages as well, then please make sure that you subscribe to the channel Empowered Voices on YouTube to watch future podcast videos. So again, as Kathi mentioned, thank you so much, everyone, for watching, commenting, sending your questions and your support and your love. We love you all greatly, and we'll see you at the next podcast. Blessings.